Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today is Saturday, January 31st, 2026. And if you were listening to this, congratulations. You have officially survived the first month of the agentic era.
Barely. It has been quite a month, hasn't it?
It has been a decade, packed into 1 days. Today is a special edition. We're calling this AI, frankly. And before we even touch the documents, and we have a massive stack of them today, we have to address the algorithm in the room.
Right, the elephant in the room.
Exactly.
This deep dive is officially executive produced by NotebookLM. Now, usually, we'd sort of bury that in the show notes or mumble through it in the credits.
Right.
But the mission here is really specific. We are using AI to talk about AI. That's the whole point. It's meta, it's a little dystopian, but it feels necessary right now.
It's completely necessary. And the vibe we're going for today isn't the usual, tech blog cheerleading.
No.
And it certainly isn't that doomsday scrolling you see on Reddit. This is enterprise operator energy. We want the kind of conversation you'd hear in a C-suite boardroom after the consultants leave and the door's locked. Smart, skeptical, and focused on one thing.
The receipts.
Just the receipts. And to get those receipts, we have to do a little bit of time travel. We're sitting here on January 31st. But the story we're telling is really a 2-part drama that played out over the holidays.
It really was. A bit of a cliffhanger, actually.
A huge cliffhanger. Act 1 dropped on December 19th, 2025. People were wrapping gifts, checking out for the year, looking forward to eggnog, and suddenly Visa drops this massive report.
The plumbing behind the hype.
Exactly. And then nothing. Just silence.
Right.
For weeks.
Yeah, the whole industry was just sort of left hanging until Act 2 dropped on January 5th, 2026.
The fifth party problem.
Which was the answer to the first part.
It was the answer. And that's why we're stitching these two pieces together. Because Act 1 asked a, frankly, trillion-dollar question about infrastructure. How do we actually let these things into our systems?
And Act 2 tried, and I want to emphasize tried, to answer it with a theory on liability.
A theory is the right word. Because that's the big transition we're living through, right? We are moving from AI that just talks to us, chatbots, LLMs, to AI that actually buys things for us.
Transactional AI, AI with a wallet.
And that changes everything. So let's unpack this. The core tension here is, it's pretty terrifying if you actually have a credit card or run a business.
Or both.
Or both, yeah. We have this promise of agentic AI. My agent talks to your agent, books my flight, orders my groceries, manages my life. Sounds great in a sci-fi novel.
Or theory, yeah.
But the reality is, who pays when that agent goes rogue? Who is on the hook when it screws up?
And that's the myth party concept we're going to get to. But before we can even talk about liability, we have to look at the context. Why did Visa and all these other payment networks feel the need to build entirely new plumbing in late 2025? What was the catalyst?
It starts with a number that honestly kind of ruined my holiday break when I read it. 4,700%.
It's a number that doesn't even look real on a chart. It looks like a glitch, a typo.
It does. That's the surge in AI-driven traffic to retail sites in 2025.
Yeah.
A 4,700% surge. Now, if I'm a naive retailer, I might be thinking, jackpot. My SEO strategy is working. The robots love my sweaters.
Revenue's going to the moon.
Exactly. And you would be dead wrong. Because if you peel back the layers of that traffic, as the December report did, you find out most of that wasn't helpful shopping assistants trying to buy your inventory.
No, it was bad traffic. It was basically digital warfare disguised as shopping.
Give us the taxonomy here. What are we actually looking at when we say bad traffic? Because I think people imagine just, a few web crawlers.
It's way more than that. It really breaks down into 3 buckets of noise, and all of them are expensive for the merchant. First, you have the aggressive scrapers.
Okay.
These aren't buying anything. They are just hammering your server, maybe 10,000 times a second, just to check if the price of a toaster changed by a penny.
So they're just burning your cloud compute budget.
Just burning your AWS bill to feed their own training data, it's all cost and absolutely zero revenue.
That's the worst kind of traffic.
It's the absolute worst. Then, bucket 2, you've got the inventory hoarding bots.
Ah, the scalpers.
The scalpers 2.0, they lock up stock of, say, limited edition sneakers or the new PS6 console in the shopping cart. They hold it hostage so real humans can't buy it.
And then they only release it when they have a buyer in a secondary market, right?
Exactly. And from a brand perspective, that destroys customer loyalty. If I go to a site and everything is always sold out because a bot is holding it, I'm never coming back.
Right. You just assume the site is poorly managed.
You do. And the third bucket is the nastiest, credential stuffing. This is just massive industrial-scale fraud attempts.
How does that work?
Bots are testing millions of stolen usernames and passwords from other data breaches to see if they unlock a wallet on your site. So you add it all up, and what you have is effectively a distributed denial of service attack, a DDoS attack, that's just disguised as commerce.
So before the industry could even think about saying, hey, let's let these AI agents carry digital wallets, they had this fundamental identification problem.
A massive one.
You can't let a wallet carrying AI into your store if you can't tell it apart from a malicious scraper that's going to crash your server or steal your inventory.
Exactly. The challenge was identity. How do you distinguish a good bot from a bad bot when they all just look like code? And that right there, that brings us to Act 1, the plumbing.
This is where we go back to December 19, 2025. Visa comes out and announces the Intelligent Commerce Protocol. And I have to say, looking at the specs, and I've read through the technical documentation, the engineering here is genuinely impressive.
It is. It's a very sophisticated response to what was, a very chaotic environment. They realized they couldn't just patch the old system. They had to build a whole new dedicated lane for agents.
A 5-layer system, a 5-layer verification system. And I want to walk through this because it really shows how incredibly hard it is to make this stuff safe. Layer 1 is the agent registry.
This is the foundation. Think of this as the DMV for robots.
Okay, I like that.
If you're a developer building a shopping agent, you can't just unleash it on the web anymore. You have to register it with Visa. When you do that, you get issued cryptographic keys.
So like a digital ID badge.
A digital ID badge that's mathematically impossible to forge. It proves you are who you say you are.
So the agent has its badge. It's in the system. What's layer 2?
Layer 2 is signed requests.
Which means?
Think of this as the notary public. Every single time that agent tries to initiate a transaction or even just ping a merchant for data, the request itself is digitally signed.
Yeah.
And that signature includes things like timestamps, unique session IDs, and proof of exactly who the agent is acting for.
Why does that matter? Why the timestamp, for instance?
That's critical. It prevents something called replay attacks.
Okay.
So a hacker can't just record a valid message like, buy this TV, and then just play it back 5 minutes later to buy a second TV and a third and a fourth. The timestamp would be wrong. The system would know it's a stale request.
So it proves the request is fresh and authorized right now.
Exactly. It's a one-time use coupon, essentially.
Okay, so we have a badge and a signed, notarized pass. Layer 3 is where it gets really interesting to me. CDN verification. This feels like the bouncer at the club door, right?
That is a perfect analogy, but I'd go one step further. Imagine the bouncer is standing at the end of the street, not even letting people onto the sidewalk in front of the club.
Explain that. What do you mean?
The content delivery networks companies like Cloudflare or Akamai, they sit in front of the merchant's website. They're the first line of defense for almost every major website.
Right.
In this new protocol, they check the agent's signature against the registry before the traffic even gets to touch the merchant server.
So if I'm a fake bot, I don't have a signature, I don't even get to knock on the door.
You don't even get into the parking lot. The CDN just blocks you at the edge of the network.
And that must save the merchant a fortune.
Oh, massive amounts of computing power. Because now they aren't processing all those junk requests from the scrapers and the fraudsters. It basically cleans the pipe before the water even reaches the house.
That's a huge deal for the P&L of these retailers. Okay, so we're through the bouncer. Then we have layer 4, merchant decision.
Right. This is the merchant finally saying, okay, the bouncer let you in, your ID looks valid. Do I actually want to do business with you?
So they still have discretion.
Absolutely. They validate the good bot status and then check it against their own internal risk rules. Maybe they don't want to sell to agents from a certain country or agents that have a history of high return rates. This is their final check.
And finally, layer 5, the last step.
Payment execution. This is where the money actually moves. But what's really important here is that spending limits are enforced at the network level, deep inside VisaNet itself.
What does that mean at the network level?
It means if you told your agent, do not spend more than $100. That rule isn't just some polite advice stored on your phone that the agent could ignore. It is hard-coded into the authorization message that goes to the bank. The network itself will reject any transaction that tries to exceed that limit. It's a non-negotiable ceiling.
So to sum it up, if you don't have proof, perfect proof, at all 5 of those layers, there is no purchase.
Correct. And from a pure engineering standpoint, this is a very elegant solution. It solves the technical access problem. It creates a clean, secure pipe for these agents to travel through.
But And there was always a but in these deep dives.
There's always a but.
Back in December, when we were all looking at this beautiful new plumbing, there was a massive cliffhanger. The pipes were brand new, they were shiny, but the rules of the road were completely missing.
This is what we started calling the dispute void.
The dispute void? I love that name, but I hate what it implies for my bank account, because here's the scenario we were all worrying about back in December. My AI agent, perfectly registered, perfectly signed, gets through all 5 layers. Flawless execution, it buys a flight to Paris. Great.
Sounds good so far.
But it buys it for the wrong dates. Or it buys a non-refundable ticket when I explicitly asked for a refundable one.
Or let's get even more complex and, frankly, more realistic. Suppose the AI hallucinates.
Right.
It thinks you want to go to Paris, Texas, not Paris, France, because you mentioned you like BBQ in some previous chat 3 weeks ago.
Oh, no.
It followed your instructions based on its own flawed logic. It obeyed the spending limit. Technically, the transaction was perfect. From a protocol standpoint, everything worked. But the outcome is a complete disaster for you.
Who pays for that? That is the question that was hanging in the air.
In the traditional world, if you buy something and it's wrong, you dispute it. You call your bank and you say, hey, I didn't authorize this, or the item wasn't as described.
Sure.
But in this scenario, who is actually at fault? You authorize the agent to act on your behalf. The merchant delivered the product as ordered. Visa processed the payment flawlessly.
Everyone did their job correctly, according to the technical rules.
Everyone. And as of December 2025, Visa's materials were totally silent on this. They talked all about cryptographic keys and signed requests, but they didn't say a single word about cardholder dispute rights when an agent screws up.
That was the gap. It was this technological marvel with a legal black hole right in the center of it. And that leads us directly to Act 2.
The other shoe drops.
January 5, 2026. The next report comes out. The fifth party problem.
Yeah.
And Visa finally provides an answer, or at least the beginning of an answer, to the liability question.
And this answer, if it becomes real, it fundamentally changes how we think about commerce.
They introduced this concept of the fifth party. Can you break this down for us? Because usually we only talk about a four-party model in payments, right?
Correct. For decades, traditional electronic payments have involved 4 main parties. You've got the consumer, which is you. You've got the issuer, which is your bank. You have the merchant, the store you're buying from. And you have the acquirer, which is the merchant's bank.
And the card network, like Visa or Mastercard, just sits in the middle, directing traffic.
Exactly. They're the rails. But now they're proposing a new player on the field.
The fifth party.
The fifth party. Visa's head of product was quoted in that January report saying, and this is key, AI platforms are now part of the value chain. You have to assume mistakes will happen.
So the translation is?
The fifth party is the AI platform. It's the entity that built the brain of the agent.
So we're talking about the model providers, the companies actually building the LLMs.
That's it. OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, or whichever developer built the specific agent software you're using. Visa's argument is that if the agent makes a mistake, if the brain fails, if a hallucination causes a financial loss, the dispute chain now has to include the entity that built that brain.
That sounds fair, doesn't it? If Ford builds a car with faulty brakes, Ford pays for the damages. If OpenAI builds an agent with faulty logic, OpenAI should pay.
It sounds fair and it sounds perfectly logical. It fits our mental model of product liability. But, and this is the most crucial nuance we need to highlight from the January report, the listeners really need to lean in for this part. Okay.
This is aspirational, not operational.
Aspirational. That is a very polite, very corporate way of saying it doesn't actually work that way yet.
Precisely. It's a roadmap, not a reality. If you look at the actual legally binding chargeback rules that govern global banking today, right now, in January 2026, they do not include any mechanism to pull money out of an AI company's bank account to settle a dispute. It doesn't exist.
Wait, let me get this straight. So if my agent buys that wrong flight to Paris, Texas today, and I call my bank to dispute it, Visa can say, oh, well, conceptually, that's the fifth party's fault. But practically?
Practically, in today's world, the merchant still eats the loss, or you do. The chargeback still goes to the merchant. The mechanism to automatically debit the AI provider doesn't exist in the payment rails yet.
So Visa is floating a concept to prepare the industry, but they aren't enforcing a rule.
Exactly. It's a beta rule. It's a vision board, not a regulation. They're signaling the direction they want to go, but the car isn't built yet.
And for a merchant, that has to be terrifying. It's a nightmare. because Visa is telling them, don't worry, the AI company is responsible, but the chargeback letter, the one that actually cost them money, is still coming to the merchant's inbox.
That is a massive disconnect between theory and practice. And while Visa is out there pitching this vision, the rest of the industry isn't just sitting around waiting for them.
No. Which brings us to the protocol wars.
The inevitable fragmentation.
Of course.
Oh, I love a good format war. It feels like VHS versus beta all over again.
HD DVD versus Blu-ray.
Lightning cables versus USB-C. It's a classic tech story.
It is exactly that. As of right now, this month, January 2026, we do not have one standard for AI payments. We have 3 competing giants, all trying to own the rails of the future.
Okay, let's meet the combatants. In one corner, we have the Visa Trusted Agent Protocol, or TAP, which we just discussed.
Right? They have about 30 or so partners in their sandbox. But the risk there as a developer is that they create a silo, a walled garden.
Meaning if you build for Visa, does your agent even work on Mastercard? Does it work on PayPal?
That's the billion-dollar question. And in the other corner, you have Google.
Of course.
They've launched Google AP2, which stands for Agent Payments Protocol. And this is a coalition play. They've gathered a massive group around them: Mastercard, PayPal, Amex, Coinbase, Shopify, Klarna.
Wow. That is a heavy-hitting lineup. That looks like the Avengers of fintech.
It really is. And their pitch to the world is interoperability. They're basically saying, don't lock yourself into the Visa ecosystem, build on our open standard, and your agent will work everywhere.
But there's a risk there, too.
The risk is that they are building this layer that might not play nice with closed schemes that are outside of their little coalition.
And then just to make it more confusing, we have Mastercard also kind of doing their own thing.
Yes. So this is the messy part. Mastercard Agent Pay. They are a key member of the Google coalition, but they also have their own standalone offering that's heavily focused on tokenization, and they have a big partnership with Microsoft.
Okay, this sounds like a complete nightmare for a merchant. Imagine you're a retailer like Target or Walmart. What do?
It's a fragmentation nightmare. Do you need to build 3 different digital front doors to let these different agents in? Do you need all this extra glue code just to accept a Visa agent versus a Google agent?
And payments people hate fragmentation.
They despise it. They want universality. They want tap and go, not check the technical manual and see if this specific agent is compatible with this specific payment terminal.
Because friction kills conversion.
Instantly. If a consumer's agent tries to buy something and it fails because of some protocol mismatch, the consumer just stops using the agent. The experiment is over.
So we have unfinished plumbing, a theoretical liability rule that doesn't actually work yet, and 3 different companies fighting over which electrical plug to use. But wait, there's more.
There's always more when you start digging into the infrastructure.
Let's talk about the Rails problem, because all these fancy, futuristic AI agents with their neural networks and their reasoning capabilities, they're ultimately trying to ride on some very, very old train tracks.
This is the ISO 8583 problem.
ISO 8583. It sounds like a droid from Star Wars, C-3PO's less famous cousin.
I wish it were that futuristic. ISO 8583 is a messaging standard for card payments that dates all the way back to the 1980s.
Wow.
It was designed to send very small packets of data over very slow dial-up phone lines.
What kind of data are we talking about?
The absolute basics. Card number, expiry date, amount, merchant ID, location. That's pretty much it. It's a bitmap format. It's dense, it's tiny, and it is incredibly rigid.
It's narrow.
It is incredibly narrow. Now contrast that with an AI agent. An agent has all this rich context. It knows where you're buying the shirt. It knows your size preferences. It has a digital signature. It has session data. It has a cryptographic proof of identity.
It wants to send a novel's worth of metadata to the bank to prove it's legitimate.
Exactly. And it's trying to shove that entire novel into a text message from 1987.
It's not going to fit.
It's not going to fit. We're stuffing rich, context-heavy agent data into this incredibly narrow messaging standard. Now, there is a modern standard, to be fair. It's called ISO 2022. It's used for things like wire transfers and high-value settlement. It's XML-based. It's data-rich. It's very modern. But the card authorization networks, the part that says yes or no to your swipe at the register in real time, are still largely running on the old rails.
So we have a bandwidth problem at the fundamental data layer. The agent has the proof, but it can't transmit the proof to the bank because the pipe is just too skinny.
Which leads to what? False declines. The bank sees a transaction that looks a bit weird. It doesn't get the rich context that would explain it, so it just blocks it out of caution.
And everyone gets frustrated. But we don't just have a technical problem, we have a regulatory problem, specifically when we start crossing borders. This part of the report honestly made me sweat.
This is where the governance gap really starts to hurt. Let's look at the EU AI Act, specifically Article 6.
And the EU does not mess around with tech regulation.
No, they do not. And Article 6 is very likely to classify these agentic payment systems as high risk.
High risk. That just sounds expensive and complicated.
It is. It means you have mandatory conformity assessments, high data quality governance, radical transparency requirements, and intense human oversight. It's a huge compliance burden.
Okay, but here's the scenario that keeps coming up. I'm a U.S. bank. My AI agent software runs on a U.S. cloud server, let's say AWS in Virginia, but my customer's on vacation in Paris. They use their agent to buy a croissant.
That's the nightmare scenario for a compliance officer. Brussels does not care that your server is in Virginia.
Right.
They care that the consumer, the data subject, is in Paris. The moment that agent interacts with a person physically within the European Union, the EU AI Act applies to the transaction. Full stop.
So a U.S. bank could inadvertently be triggering these massive EU compliance requirements just because their customer decided to travel.
Yes. And if their internal systems aren't mapped to ISO IE 42001, which is the new global standard for how to manage an AI system responsibly, they simply are not ready for that level of scrutiny.
ISO 42001. We're throwing a lot of ISO numbers around today.
It's the language of enterprise trust. If you can't show that you map to 42001, you're basically walking into a regulatory audit with a strategy of, trust me, bro, and that does not work in banking.
So let's recap. We have a mess. We have technical limits. We have regulatory minefields. We have a liability game of hot potato going on.
Yeah.
But the reporting highlights a really interesting solution that is quietly emerging from the sidelines.
Yeah.
And it's not coming from the tech giants. And it's not coming from the government.
No, it's not. It's coming from the actuaries.
The insurance layer. This is my favorite part of this whole deep dive because it's so counterintuitive. We keep waiting for Congress or the EU to write the perfect law to fix AI. But the report argues that insurance companies are quietly becoming the real governance layer.
It makes perfect sense if you think about it. Insurance companies hate losing money. They are the ultimate pragmatists.
Right.
They don't care about the hype. They only care about the risk. They are, by their very nature, ruthless auditors.
So who are the players here? We're not talking about Geico saving you 15% of your car insurance, are we?
No, we are talking about very specialized new players, like a company called AIUC, the Artificial Intelligence Underwriting Company.
That is a very literal, on-the-nose name.
It is. They raised about $15 million back in July of 2025. They're backed by the former CEO of GitHub, and they are building something called AIUC1.
Which is being pitched as the SOC2 for AI agents. Explain that.
Okay, so in the software world, SOC2 is the gold standard for data security and operational controls. If you sell software to big companies and you don't have a SOC2 report, they won't even talk to you.
It's table stakes.
It's table stakes. AIUC wants to be that for agents. They've created a safety framework that blends rules from NIST in the US and the EU AI Act. Their goal is to be the independent auditor that the insurance carriers require before they'll underwrite a policy.
So before an insurance company writes a policy for an AI agent platform, they'll say, go get your AIUC1 certification first and come back and talk to us.
Exactly. It effectively privatizes the regulation. The insurance company says, we will not cover your risk unless you prove you're safe according to this independent standard. It's market-driven compliance.
And then you have the big established giants getting into this too, like Munich Re.
Right. Munich Re, one of the biggest reinsurers in the world, has a product called Assure. They focus on performance guarantees. So if the AI model makes a quantifiable mistake that a reasonable human wouldn't have made, they make the bank whole.
And then there's Armilla.
Armilla is fascinating. They're backed by Lloyd's of London, and they have a policy that is, it's basically, oops, the agent hallucinated insurance.
I want that policy for my own brain sometimes.
Don't we all? It specifically provides coverage for financial losses caused by hallucinations and other types of algorithmic failure. And the coverage can scale from, $25,000 up to millions of dollars.
This is the real so what of the insurance section for me. If the potential loss is big enough, the insurer is suddenly on the hook. And because the insurer's on the hook, they are going to force better behavior and better controls than any government regulation ever could.
Precisely. If your insurance premiums are going to go up by 1,000% because your agent is reckless, you will fix the agent. Money talks much louder than a compliance memo. The C-suite listens to the CFO, and the CFO listens to the insurance broker. That's the chain of command.
So insurance is there to clean up the mess after it happens. But we still have a prevention problem. We talked about identifying bad bots earlier. But there seems to be a deeper layer to this problem called KYA.
Know your agent.
We all know KYC in banking, know your customer. Every bank has to do it. You have to prove you're a real person, show your passport, a utility bill, all of that.
But we have nothing like that for Know Your Agent.
This part just blew my mind. We are building systems to let these things spend our money, but we don't have a standardized ID card for them.
We have technical authentication, like we discussed with the Visa keys, but that just proves who sent the message. It proves it came from a registered agent. It doesn't tell the merchant anything about what that agent is allowed to do.
Right. Cloudflare's system can say, yes, this is a bot, but it can't say, this is a specific audited agent owned by Bank of America with a $500 spending limit, and it's not allowed to buy non-refundable items.
That contextual identity is the missing piece of the puzzle. There are companies working on it, identity specialists like Okta and Author are building tools, but they are very early building blocks, not a finished solution.
So the uncomfortable truth, as the report puts it, is that everyone is kind of pretending that the identity problem is solved, but it isn't.
Not even close. Until KYA is a real codified universal standard, all of this cross-border agent commerce is effectively running on trust and hope.
And trust and hope is not a great strategy for financial services.
It is not. It's a strategy for gambling in Las Vegas, maybe.
Yeah.
Not for global commerce.
Okay, so we've laid out the entire landscape. It is messy, it is exciting, it is, frankly, a little bit dangerous. I want to get practical. We promised enterprise operator energy at the top of the show.
Right.
If I am a CISO, a Chief Information Security Officer listening to this, and my CEO comes to me, excited, and says, we need to buy an AI agent platform, what do I ask the vendor?
You need to grill them. And based on these reports, there are 5 non-negotiable questions you absolutely must ask. You cannot let them leave the room until they give you satisfactory answers to all 5.
Okay, let's role play this for a second. I'm the vendor. I'm pitching you my shiny new AI agent platform. You're the CISO. Go.
All right. Question 1. Which protocol are you optimized for? Are you building for Visa Tag? Are you all in on Google AT2? Or are you trying to do both? Because I don't want to buy a Betamax player in a world that's about to standardize on VHS. If you pick the wrong horse, I'm stuck with a pile of useless code.
That's a great question. I'll admit I'm mostly focused on Google AP2, but we're considering Visa compatibility. Okay, next.
Question 2. Do you map to ISO IEC 42001? And don't just say yes. Show me the documentation. Show me the controls. If you don't have a documented AI management system, you are not touching my high-risk spend. Period.
That probably shuts down 90% of the startups in this space right there. Most of them are just winging it on governance.
As they should be. Question 3. Are you working toward AIUC 1 certification?
Okay, now why does that matter to me, the buyer? That's about you getting insurance.
It's about me knowing that you can get insurance. If you aren't building toward an insurable standard, I'm not buying your platform. If Munich Re or Armilla won't touch you, then neither will I. It's that simple.
Very smart. You're outsourcing the technical due diligence to the insurers. Okay, question 4.
How do you handle the ISO A583 message limits? This is the deep plumbing question. I need to know how you are stuffing all that rich agent context through those narrow 1980s pipes without breaking the transaction. Do you have a sidecar API? Are you using tokens? Explain the architecture to my engineers.
To the final one, number 5.
Is there a human-in-the-loop kill switch?
That sounds dramatic.
It is the most essential question. I need to know. At what dollar amount does the agent lose the ability to authorize spend independently? If it tries to wire $1 million, does a human being get a text message that they have to approve? If the answer is no, the meeting is over.
That is a rock-solid checklist. That is how you buy enterprise software without getting fired. Now, let's pivot to the listener who isn't a CISO, the regular person, the learner, as we call them. They're just wondering, should I let this new AI agent buy my stuff?
I think we can break this down into some simple trust levels, a kind of traffic light system.
Okay. Level 1, groceries. We're talking under $50. Green light.
Green light, yes.
Yeah.
Do it. It is very low stakes. If the AI buys the wrong brand of peanut butter, it is either easily reversible or you just, eat the wrong peanut butter. The risk is minimal. It's a low regret transaction.
Okay. Level 2. Subscriptions. Things like Spotify or Netflix. Yellow light.
Yellow light, I'd say maybe. It's predictable. It's the same amount every month, so it's auditable. If the charge suddenly spikes, you're going to notice it pretty quickly.
Makes sense. Level 3. Travel bookings. Flights. Hotels.
That is a hard NO.
Yeah.
A flashing red light.
Really? But that's the #1 use case everyone demos. Hey, AI, book me a trip to Maui.
And it is by far the most dangerous for the consumer right now. There are just too many edge cases, flight times change, connections get missed, and crucially, you have non-refundable tickets. Until that fifth-party liability is 100% solved and operational, do not let an AI book a non-refundable flight. If it books you to the wrong city, you are out thousands of dollars, and as of today, Visa has no rule that can help you.
And finally, any other large purchases. Anything, say, over $500.
A red light. No, not until the insurance layer and the KYA, the Know Your Agent standards are fully codified. The risk of a dispute is just too high, and the mechanism to get your money back is way too murky.
So the advice for now is stick to the peanut butter.
For now, absolutely, stick to the peanut butter.
As we wrap up this deep dive, we always like to look ahead. We aren't just summarizing history. We want to give people signals to watch for in the future. What are the key signals listeners should be watching for in the next few months to see how this story develops?
I'd say there are 5 big ones. Signal number 1, watch Visa. We are waiting for them to publish actual chargeback rules that explicitly name AI platforms as a liable party. Not a white paper, not a blog post, a formal update to the Visa core rules.
When that PDF document updates, the world actually changes. That's the moment the fifth party becomes truly operational.
Exactly. Signal number 2, and this one is a bit darker. The first major enterprise breach that happens via an AI agent vector.
It's going to happen, isn't it?
It feels inevitable. Someone is going to let an agent into their system. It's going to have too much permission, and it's going to be exploited to drain an account. And when it does, it will massively accelerate all of this governance we're talking about.
A crisis is a terrible thing to waste. Signal 3.
Protocol convergence. Watch for one of the big players to blink. Either Google, Visa, or Mastercard will realize they can't win this war alone, and we will see some kind of merger of standards or a bridge between them. Payments hates fragmentation, and the market will force a solution.
Signal 4.
Keep an eye on the insurers, specifically AIUC getting SOC2 level adoption. The day you see big banks telling their vendors, we require AIUC1 certification, that's when you know the insurance layer has become the de facto regulator.
And the last one, Signal 5.
A major retail bank starts offering AI agent insurance directly to its retail customers. The day you can log into your Chase or Bank of America app and pay $5 a month for AI agent protection, that is the mainstream moment.
That is the tipping point. That means the risk has been fully calculated and priced for the average person.
That's the one.
So where does that leave us today? We've covered the 4,700% bot surge, the impressive 5-layer plumbing, the gaping hole in liability, the aspirational fifth party, and the quiet rise of the insurance auditors.
It leaves us in a transition period, a very messy, very exciting, and very high-stakes transition period. We are, in a very real sense, building the plane while flying it, and the plane is handling our money.
The plumbing is sophisticated.
It is, very much so.
The liability answer is complicated.
Extremely.
And a fifth party sitting on top of unfinished plumbing without a universal insurance policy is really just a placeholder.
It's a placeholder for a system that hasn't fully formed yet, a promise of a future state of governance.
I think we have a specific line from our notes that sums this up perfectly.
We do.
The tech works. The governance doesn't.
Yet. That's the key word.
That is going to be it for this special edition of The Deep Dive, powered by AI, frankly. If you want to see the actual receipts, the deep technical breakdowns, the charts, the full analysis from the original reports, you need to go to the source.
That's afrankly.substack.com.
That's where the newsletter lives. And of course, you can find the AI Frankly podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
No hype, just receipts.
Thanks for listening. We will see you in the next deep dive.
Stay skeptical out there.